Okay, we're going to start this again. We have Plato Canada, and we did start our meeting at 6:03, but due to technical difficulties, had to restart YouTube. So our apologies to anybody who is watching this evening. So I'll go back to the land acknowledgement. With gratitude, the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands acknowledges these lands and waters are traditional territory of the Algonquin, Mississaugas, Mohawk, and Huron-Wendat. To recognize the role the township must play in truth and reconciliation, we also acknowledge the displacement of these peoples. Additionally, the township would like to respectfully acknowledge the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people who also call this place home. We make this land acknowledgement to honor the Indigenous ancestors who have stewarded these lands and waters since time immemorial. So just a quick note before I get on to the adoption of the agenda. So our committee of the whole was canceled for the first week in June due to insufficient items to be on the agenda, and they have been added to this agenda. So we do have a full agenda this evening, and so our hope is to get through it all. And we'll move forward with the first motion, which is to adopt the agenda moved by Councillor Mabey, seconded by Councillor Antoine Hartley, that the agenda be adopted as circulated and that the procedural bylaw be waived for this meeting to allow for a delegation to be added to the agenda as item 8. Any discussion on that motion? Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. Through to you. Do we have a spot? I didn't see one for notices of motion because it is a dual meeting. I didn't see it on there.
Do you want to add that? We can add that to the agenda, so we can make that. Where would you like that, Madam Clerk? Item 16. So the mover, which is Councillor Mabey, and the seconder, Councillor Antoine Hartley. Any issue with notices of motion at number 16? So we'll do 16A. Or yeah, okay, got it. Motion. Thank you, Councillor Lackey. So with that, any other items that are not on the agenda? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Okay, next item on the agenda is declaration of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Does anyone have an interest to declare? Go ahead, Councillor Mabey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have a interest on number 13.7. Thank you.
Okay, and that's community grants. And Councillor Antoine Hartley.
Thanks. I have two actually, one on 13.14 and one on 13.7.
Okay, so community improvement plan application and also 2025 community grant spring intake. Okay, any other declarations of interest? Seeing none, we'll move forward with closed session if required, and I don't believe we have anything until later in the meeting. And then as far as public meeting is considered, we don't have any public meetings this evening. And number 8, delegations. We have Mr. Ed Hand here to speak about volunteers in the municipality. So Mr. Hand, if you'd like to come up to the podium to speak.
Oh, I see what you're doing. Okay. Thanks for having me this evening, folks. This is from the township's own website. Volunteering weaves us together, strengthening the fabric of our community by sharing our time, talent, and energy to support one another. Through volunteering, we experience our interconnectedness, making our lives more meaningful. Threading these connections, we come to belong as we contribute toward the same goals. Like each individual thread makes weaving stronger, every volunteer's experience, perspective, and abilities add to our collective resilience. Well, some of those threads are fraying and are becoming close to snapping. The Sealy's Bay Area Residents Association's been stepping up to make the village more vibrant through beautification of Main Street and the entrances, as well as organizing the Pitching Cleanup Day, Red Canoe Fest, the Christmas tree lighting, and of course, Canada Day. We are the only organized fireworks display in the township. But that is close to coming to an end. Our volunteer base is dedicated but tired. Volunteer Canada notes the civic core, those now older volunteers who have built and sustained the massive system of volunteer involvement and citizen participation in this country. It's aging out of service and almost certainly will not be replaced by generations of Canadians who follow. Add to this fact that 77% of all formal volunteer work in this country already rests on the shoulders of only 11% of the population under 15 years of age and older. The township and Sealy's Bay are aging, which will reinforce this trend. This is occurring across the township from the volunteer groups I've spoken with. The constantly changing forms, the clunky website make it difficult for even the most seasoned volunteers to fill out. There is constant repetition in what is being asked in each form. These all take a lot of time to complete, valuable time that could be spent on actual work on the event. A suggestion from some volunteers is if there's no change to the event, then the forms would repopulate the information from the previous year. It makes little sense to start over from scratch unless the township likes paperwork. There needs to be accountability for the use of public space, but the overbearing red tape is wearing on our volunteer spirit. Just look at Turkey Fair in Lyndhurst. They're on their third organization running it because of the excessive paperwork to make the community better and more engaging. Let's look at Frostfest in Sealy's Bay, 30 years and still going in the fire hall. But the wear and tear on volunteers is growing. In the case of the Lions and Frostfest, they have to station a volunteer in the elevator to make sure it works getting people up and down. If it was maintained properly, they could use those volunteers elsewhere. The same for Storyfest at Community Hall just this spring. Sabara shows up to get ready, and there are signs saying the water is not potable. Not being informed of this ahead of time is just negligent. It also had us scrambling to bring in bottled water ahead of the event. Again, not something we needed at the last minute. It really appeared to be a harbinger of what was to come. In April, we held the pitch-in day to help clean up. We agreed to everything a month out with the township, but on the day of, the township didn't bring the dumpster. Those flowers I spoke of earlier, we'd asked specifically for red and white, which is a no-brainer for Canada Day, but we and the rest of the groups received yellow and purple. Now, if you're going to ask what we would like, perhaps follow up or just don't ask. And then we met to discuss Canada Day, where we learned we'd have to rent the park to hold Canada Day. But we couldn't have the canteen as in other years because the township was going to sell ice cream. Then there was something about the health unit having a problem with it. We checked with the health unit and they had nothing on record. It appears this year we will have the canteen, but next year is up in the air, as is Canada Day. Pillar 1 of the township's strategic plan reads, foster relationships within all levels of government, municipal associations, and stakeholder groups to advance the interests of the township and its residents. From our perspective, this is not happening. Volunteer fatigue is real and growing in Leeds and Thousand Islands. The volunteer base is graying, and there are few willing to step up because of the excessive red tape. Those threads that bind us are wearing thin, and the bottom line is those community events that enhance our quality of life are at risk of extinction. Our next meeting after Canada Day, Sabara will decide whether to continue organizing the event next year. It's a tradition, but it's one that's becoming too excessive for our volunteers. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the delegation. Are there any comments or questions? Okay, please go ahead. I need your microphone on.
So I have felt the frustration that Mr. Hand is referring to. It has become more and more difficult to do simple things. We understand, I think, the need for liability and looking at things from that point of view. However, there's quite a bit of miscommunication between the groups and we going back and forth. So I feel the frustration and have for a number of years. As I said, we very well understand the need for the permitting. We get it. But we also need a little bit of an understanding that we're not Kingston. We're smaller communities with fewer volunteers. There's no one that hired to oversee the paperwork for us. It's us. And lots of people are becoming, I know of at least 3 people have said, done, not doing it again. And when you're talking about a small group, 3 is a lot. So I just wanted to say that I feel the frustration, and I think that we can do better to support our volunteers.
Go ahead, Ms. Cumlin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. We had quite a frank discussion along these same lines for the benefit of council and staff that weren't at the 3rd town hall meeting that we had at the new fire station in Sealy's Bay. And a lot of the points that Mr. Hand made today were brought up then. And certainly the recreation working group heard that. Tracy Holland was there as well, and our recreation coordinator. And it was important feedback to receive. And I know we are working on some things like the website and the online forums and that kind of thing. But and hopefully that will help. But that all of the feedback we received will certainly be being taken into consideration when we meet again as a recreation working group.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Groh.
Was quite a list that I heard, this committee heard from Mr. Hand. And I'm not involved in Sealy's Bay or Lyndhurst. And I would appreciate the frustration. Is there not a simple answer, but is there a way that this could be approached from this committee to smooth it out some? I'm not sure. There were a number of items raised there, and it was kind of overwhelming. But is it the paperwork? Is it the is there an area that we could look at and try to make it flow a little better? I know why we put things in place. We were all here. I know exactly why it was there, and we all approved it and said, "Hey, this seems like the appropriate way to go for a municipality." So it wasn't ill-founded. It's just that if something's not working, then how would we go about revisiting it, perhaps? I don't know the answer to that from a volunteer point of view. And we'll just use the example of Sealy's Bay. But I agree, Sealy's Bay is awesome, and Turkey Fest is just magnificent stuff. And I don't think it's incumbent upon this municipality to make it so onerous that people are don't want to deal with it. That would be a shame. So I don't know the answer, but would we put a committee together? Would we ask the staff
I
to
think-
address it?
I think
What might we
based
do?
on what Councillor
Thank you.
Kelman just said, in regards to the working group for recreation and also Tracy Holland's position in community involvement, is taking this feedback, going back to, and lumping it together so that we can be as efficient as possible between, sorry, I'm forgetting Alex's last name. Johnson, thank you. So Alex Johnson, who is our rec coordinator, who is dealing with a lot of these bookings and what have you, as well as Tracy, who's dealing with community groups and the requests that come in. So I get the impression, based on what I understand, the meetings that have gone on recently, is that this feedback has been important and it has come back to us, and that we are going to endeavor to make things easier and more streamlined where possible. However, if, we do encourage that people in the community, if they're having ongoing frustration with the way we're doing things, we appreciate the fact that you came as a delegation and brought the list, you know. If we may not be able to accomplish all of it, but if we can make a small dent in it to make it easier and more efficient for volunteer groups in the area to actually hold these events and be successful, then hopefully we can do that. So thank you very much. I'll recognize Councillor Fody and then Councillor Antoine Hartley, and then we'll move on.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Your Worship, through you. I too have noticed, like my colleagues, the layers we seem to be putting upon all our volunteer groups. And you see it on our feeds. We get a news feed that some organization is applying for a noise bylaw and such. Can we not really simplify that and just send out all these organizations, and almost all of our events are annual? We shouldn't have to reinvent the wheel every time Lansdowne Fair, Celia's Bay, July 1st, or Turkey Fair has to come through. There should be a list, noise bylaw, parking bylaw, you know, all these things should be on there. Just check off what you need, approve it once, and there's your list. It makes me pretty nervous when I see some of the events in our township are being approved 24 hours before they're actually taking place. It's a little bit scary because I can't help but think, well, what if it wasn't approved? Then what? I think we are putting, as Mr. Hans had stated, we are putting a lot of onus on volunteers, a lot of needless stress that could be eliminated days and weeks, if not months ahead, because of the annual perpetuity of all these events. And I think it could be much more simple. Just fill out your checklist to what's required for you, maybe based on the last couple of years' requirements, and move from there. It's not going to solve the volunteer list. I hate to break the news that you already know. It's a phenomenon that's taking place all across the country, if not North America. The so-called volunteer specialists are aging out or disappearing completely, which is sad. And with the economy, I think we all know that's what's putting the strain at home. So there's no leftover hours for one parent or the other to volunteer. The time isn't there or the energy. Thank you.
Councillor Antoine Hartley.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I will have a motion during the motions.
You can bring that forward in notice as a motion.
Yes,
Okay,
thanks.
great. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Mr. Hans. And we will move forward with our briefings. So we have Katie Mahone from KPMG, and we'll go, I believe Katie is online, or she was, I saw her earlier. She was there. And I see the connecting to audio and
Yeah,
the,
that's fine.
oh, it's that computer. Okay, got it. I just was more concerned that nobody at home could hear our audio. Okay, so we'll just give it another minute to see if we can get Katie back online. Okay, I'll move through consent agenda which is adoption of minutes and stuff. Perfect. Okay.
What about the drain consultancy?
We can go back to the drain consultants.
They're speaking to the drain reports, so that's their placeholder, but then they can bounce to the drain.
Okay. So if that's the case, then I'm going to just move forward a little bit in the agenda till we get to that point that Katie's back online, which is the adoption and or receipt of minutes. So moved by Councillor Antoine Hartley, seconded by Councillor Maybe, that the April 7th, 2025 Committee of the Whole minutes and the May 5th, 2024 Council meeting minutes be adopted as circulated, and that the March 25th, April 29th, 2025 Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes be received and filed. Any errors or omissions in any of those minutes? Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. The only one I found was the April 7th of 25 Committee of the Whole minutes. The concern about the drone was actually from me and not Deputy Mayor
Bodie.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll correct that in the minutes. Any other errors or omissions? Go ahead, Councillor Lackey.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I apologize. I didn't make a note of it, but in the Committee of Adjustments meeting with the application of Stratford Road. In that report, it kind of switches off and talks about Charleston Lake. So
So
I think
so
there's
there's
a,
some context. So
yeah,
so because we're just receiving those minutes, we don't approve, well, we just receive them. Committee of Adjustment approves them, but so the point you're trying to make is that there was different references. Okay, so maybe we'll go back to the planner to see, maybe they can have that adjusted at the Committee of Adjustment. Thank you for picking up on that. Any further errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Okay, so with that, do we have Katie back yet? So we don't have Katie back here, but we do have the other consultants on the line. Do we? So I don't want to usurp Katie's and report and all of her fun stuff that we get to talk about audited financial statements. But I don't want to keep our consultants waiting either for the drainage thing. Phil, okay, so maybe we'll give it one more minute before we go to the Robinson consultants. This is where I feel like we should have the Jeopardy thing. Put it on the side. So the way it's laid out here is that the next item would be Katie Mahone's briefing in regards to 13.1 and 13.2. And then our second briefing, Mr. Hutchings and Mr. Franklin from Robinson and Consultants, is in regards to 13.3 and 13.4 and 13.5. So I'm just concerned that if she was supposed to be early in the meeting and she had another meeting to go to. Oh, okay. So we apologize for this and thank everybody for their patience. Maybe what we'll do is go forward with the drainage consultants and then come back. I know we're jumping all over this agenda, but
Resolutions will be out of order.
right. Okay. So, if we're moving forward with the briefing from Mr. Hutchings and Mr. Franklin, and they're here to speak towards the engineering reports, or they have a,
They're here to answer any questions that you might have.
okay, so really we need to go to the motion, which is for 13.3, correct? Correct. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't get myself. Okay, so we're moving on to 13.3, which is the engineer's report for the Creek Road Municipal Drain. And the motion comes forward from Councillor Maybe, seconded by Councillor Fody, that council accept the engineer's report prepared by Robinson Consultants, Inc., entitled engineer's report for modification and improvement of the Creek Road Municipal Drain dated May 2024, that council give first and second reading to a proposed bylaw, therefore adopting the engineer's report as a provisional bylaw in accordance with section 42 and 45 of the Drainage Act, RSO 1990 CD 17, and that the notice of the first and second reading of the proposed bylaw be given to the affected landowners and arrange for the Court of Revisions in accordance with the Drainage Act. So the motion is now on the floor. Just for further clarification, I think it is fairly clear in the bylaw. This does not finalize anything other than setting up, moving forward with the Court of Revision, as well as creating the process for individuals on the drain that can come back to and make their concerns known. Is that correct, Mr. Holliday?
Thank you. So the purpose of the Court of Revision will be if there are any objections or alterations that need to be made in terms of their assessments. So council would deal with the assessments only. That's the financial portion of this. If there were any technical aspects that need to be reconsidered, then that would actually go through the tribunal. That's out of council's hands, and that's with the province at that point.
Okay, sorry, my apologies for misspeaking there. So the motion is on the floor. Are there any comments, questions? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Fody.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the Director of Operations. What I read on this Court of Revisions, an example you just gave, if there was amendments made to a property owner to reduce their cost, it must be applied to the rest of the catchment basin landowners. That amount can't disappear, is what I'm saying. It has to be reapplied to everybody else left over. Is that true?
I will look to either Eldon or Lauren to speak to that one.
Yes, that is correct. Assessments are, the estimate is there, that's the total, and if you take something away from somebody, you have to say where it goes to.
Okay. I must ask, if I may, the next question I have, knowing that, these numbers were presented with here tonight, if I read it right, that was from May 24 cost analysis, right? So anything done here forward, is it going to be an updated cost, I assume, because things move forward, cost of equipment and such?
The costs provided in the report are estimates only, so it does give some opportunity for them to move. And the actual total is what gets assessed proportionally based on what's in the schedule. We haven't been specifically requested to do an update, but if we were, we could do so. It's fairly atypical on a report. Because they are estimates only, and there's the ability to proportionally distribute those costs, then going forward, because it's under a section 78, which is a direction by council to do an improvement, where there's provisions in the act for like 133% of the cost, but that's based on an actual petition drain by owners. So at that point, you'd have to go back to the owners and ask them if they wanted to continue. But because this one's by council, you can choose to continue based on the costs that actually come in, or choose not to continue.
And my final question to either one of you, Mr. Franklin, Mr. Hutchings, can you give me an example on the Court of Revision decision? For instance, in my own mind, after reading all this, can the Court of Revisions exclude a property from needing an update on their drainage of their portion? Is that okay?
The one method of exclusion is if somebody applies and says that, the drainage area boundary is incorrect, that my water actually does not drain there, then the adjustment can be made that their water actually doesn't drain there, and their assessment isn't therefore part of the drain, and then their assessment gets redistributed. Individually, like let's say a property is internal to the drainage area boundary and you want to exclude them, then no, the Court of Revision can't do that.
If I might add there too, the quarter revision is only to deal with assessments. It cannot deal with any modifications to the design or the construction of the system. It's only to modify the assessment schedule of the report. So that provides Lauren's comments on how that might be adjusted.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Rapp.
Thank you. And through your worship, just a quick question. It's been some time since we the drainage reports were brought forward, and on page 9 of 10, looking at let's see, what am I looking at here? A report given to us. It said financial implications, and this seemed odd to me, and I'm not sure if I'm reading this correctly. It says yes, and this would be one of the 2 drainages, I believe, right? It says the estimated total cost of the drainage works, including the engineer's report, is $86,500. Am I right in saying that the total with the engineering costs and the work is for the 2 drainage systems is only $90,000 or whatever? Or was it the engineering costs were $86,000 exclusive of work done? That's my confusion there.
Do you have the item? Do you know where it is in the
Yeah,
package so
sorry.
that we can
So,
refer back to it?
Yep. It's, let me just scroll up here a little bit. And
I don't
I'm
have the
just
full
misinterpreting something. It's the council report there from Ops and Infrastructure.
package. What's the page number at the bottom? 9? Okay.
Yeah,
I think
that was
Mr.
what-
Holliday is going to be able to answer a question.
Yeah,
Thank you, through your worship. That is the cost of the report to date.
of the report
Yeah.
to date.
So you're receiving the report, and that is the cost of getting this report.
Okay, so yeah, as I said, it seems a little late
We're not
on the
done
total
yet.
costs. Okay,
The
So-
actual costs of estimated construction are included in the detailed
I'm
engineer.
sorry, can you say that again, David?
The cost of the estimated construction costs are included in the engineer's report and are in addition to the cost of the report itself.
Okay, so when the work is actually done, I remember vaguely the report, it's significant, a significant number for each of the drainages, correct? I forget the exact number, but
Yes, so depending on which option we land on
Yeah.
of what was included in the alternatives, then yes, potentially it could be much higher than that.
okay. Are we going to have an overview of these presentations, or are we just expected to keep asking questions? You know, there are a lot of on both of the reports, one of each drainage rather, there are quite a number of advantages. I read them briefly. They're complicated. Are we going to have an overview, or are we just supposed to vote on it?
Go ahead, Councillor or Director Holliday.
Thank you, through your worship. Yes, we can. I'm not sure, Eldon or Lauren, if you guys want to, or if you'd prefer if I take a run through this and give them a bit of a run through.
No preference here, David, if you prefer to run through them, and if you had any questions or if we note any clarifications through, we can chime in.
Sure, I'll take a crack at it, and then just let me know if I fumble it at all, and you guys can take over. Okay.
Sure.
Thank you. So option 1, proceed to adopt the report, construct and fully assess the costs. That's the standard process of receiving the report and then doing all of the construction recommended in the report. The advantage of that is that we will get the grant. And when I say the grant, that is not only the municipality for the project, but also the property owners for the project as well, and also for their taxes, if I'm not mistaken, right? Just give me a yes or a no head shake there, guys, if you don't mind. So that's on their taxes, where they see a benefit currently in their taxes. They get some credit for being agricultural. There's the risk that they would, with this option, there is no risk of losing that funding mechanism that's in place. The downside of this is that this is the largest cost. This is doing everything, making it all brand new, but obviously with construction comes cost. So that is option 1. Option 2, proceed to adopt the report, partially construct and fully assess the costs. So this is the same thing, but instead of doing all of the work, you're only doing a portion of the work. The most important things, and what I've been told from the drainage engineers, it has to be something that affects everybody. So in our situation, on each drain, we have our sediment traps as an example, and everybody's heard about the sediment traps here. So if, as an example, we were to do maintenance on the sediment traps, then that would have a positive impact on all of the property owners that are on the drain. The downside of that is if there are some opportunities where we see increased flow and there's a negative impact on the properties, then because we haven't done all the work, that's the potential, that's the risk. With the options for doing the work, we do have to get additional permitting through the Conservation Authority. I believe, guys, that we have to do that even with a fully construct. We have to get the construction permits from the Conservation Authority. Just
the permits would be, we have obtained the permits here. I believe it's just the Cataraqui Conservation Authority's permit that would need to be renewed at the time for construction, which is a simple email renewal for that construction. But otherwise, all the permits and approvals have been obtained for both the Creek Road and the Boulevard Webster drains.
For a full reconstruct, that's been approved.
For the full reconstruction, yeah.
So that would be an alteration then from the permit we've already asked for. Because we're differentiating for what we got approved for, then we go back and get approvals for that.
That's right. And depending on the extent in which you're changing the construction, if it's quite significant, especially if you're modifying any of the mitigation features that like the DFO or the Conservation Authority is looking to see in those reports, if you're omitting those or modifying those in some way, you would need to go reestablish your permits and go back to those review agencies. If you're just modifying, the extent of the work, then simple email clarification is likely sufficient with those agencies. It really depends on the scale in which you're modifying the design.
Okay. Option 3, proceed to adopt the report, partially or fully construct and cover all the costs by general funds. So obviously that's we're not applying for the grant. We can't if we're not apportioning it to all the property owners. In addition to that, they may not get the grant through OMAFRA as well. So the agricultural lands that have seen benefit in their tax fees could potentially increase as a result of not bearing the cost of the works, if that makes sense. The township itself would be absorbing all of the cost, for this report and all of the others. And that would go into the general funds, which could cause the general ratepayers to appeal through the drainage referee because they're paying for something that they don't actually seek benefit for. Make sense so far? Option 4, proceed to adopt the report, fully or partially construct and cover partial costs by general funds. I think this is very similar to the one above. Advantages: the landowners will maintain their rate, are eligible to receive a third of the construction grant towards the assessment. Municipality, we have our updated report. The landowners bear some of the reduced costs of that. The disadvantages, same thing, where we haven't completely improved the drainage. There is the potential for flooding. Municipality bears a significant cost, but not all of it, obviously. And OMAFRA may have concern with the magnitude of grant eligibility and may need to delineate the difference between where costs are assessed and whether they are not assessed to landowners. And then where the costs are covered by the general fund, same thing, the general ratepayers can appeal to the drainage referee. So there's that risk. Option 5, proceed to adopt the report. Do not construct and assess partially assess or not assess costs. We have the updated report. There's no construction work done. There may be damage as a result of flooding. The project's not eligible for the grants through OMAFRA, and where the costs are covered by general funds, same thing. The general ratepayers can appeal through the drainage referee. Option 6, proceed to adopt the report, partially construct and assess partial construction costs only, municipality to cover the engineering fees. The municipality can choose to cover the cost of the engineering in full under general funds and proceed with the same level of construction to be eligible for the 1/3 grants. For added cost savings, Township Drainage Superintendent may undertake partial construction under their management and contractor procurement methods. So the advantage of that is that the landowners that maintain the farm class rate are eligible to receive their grant. The landowners benefit from the improved drainage system and reduced surface water flooding. Municipality has an updated report. The disadvantage is that the landowners bear some of the costs for construction, increased costs directly to the municipality, and where costs are covered by general funds, similar with the other ones, general ratepayers may appeal to the drainage referee. So there's the risk.
Sorry, I have a question from Councillor Grant.
Yeah. I appreciate how we're trying to cover this. I personally don't think we need to adopt the report. Personally, I believe that how we proceed with this. So I don't personally need us to go beyond, not accepting the report. We need an update. But I hope this isn't too far afield. But before I came on council, the Smith Bulger drainage was a major issue, and I have no idea how that was solved. And I wonder if we could possibly blend it and say, hey, this is what we did with Smith Bulger and how council mitigated with the landowners. And would that have any bearing on how we proceed here to keep it fair and equitable? I know that was a very big deal. I wasn't on council and I wasn't, not a farm owner, so I wasn't paying too much attention.
So if I can take a stab at this?
Yep.
So the Smith Bulger drain issue was not anything to do with engineering reports or assessments per se. It was about how the billing happened and that there was promises made about no fee financing, and it snowballed. So there was 3 sets of tax bills that went out. It was very inefficient. That became very frustrating. Is that about the synopsis, Councillor Lackey? Okay. And that's just because I am obviously aware of that happening.
So it was less, not so much about what we're dealing with tonight in terms of engineering reports and how we proceed.
Well, what happened is that the drain was cleaned out. It was fully done. And so it was option 1, correct? For the Smith Bulger?
I believe there wasn't an engineer's report done. The work was just done, if I'm not mistaken. But I could be mistaken.
So we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. However, the entire drain was cleaned out and all the work was done. And then all the landowners were assessed and given their bills. They were done incorrectly the first time, second time, third time's charm, got it done. But if you're trying to compare the two, which is what I think that you're asking, is that we would have done option 1 for that drain. But based on the feedback we received from landowners at the last open meeting was that the extensive nature of the work that needed to be done would be, in their mind, excessive. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm paraphrasing this, but option 2 is potentially the best way to get the government grant and also clean out the sediment traps to help mitigate any potential for flooding because they're blocked up. But it doesn't mean that any costs will be assessed on the general ratepayer. Is that correct with option 2?
That's correct.
Okay. So if you're trying to compare apples to apples, it would only be option 1.
Okay. And
Eldon, sorry, my apologies. Eldon, go ahead.
Sorry, if I might be able to provide some holistic maybe clarification for council.
Yes.
If I can appreciate there's a lot of options here, and the Drainage Act can be quite wordy in particular. So to look at this at a holistic level as far as the Drainage Act, all of these municipal drains, they've been adopted under the Provincial Drainage Act. They've been adopted under municipal bylaw. Some of these date back to the 60s, 70s or older. The municipality is obligated to maintain these drains as per the Provincial Drainage Act. Where the engineer's report comes into play is where those older reports are no longer accurate in order to complete maintenance. So For example, if the Smith Bulgers was maintained previously under the maintenance provision, it may not have been able to be built out effectively given the age of the report. There's been severances or land use changes, and that's where the engineer's report comes in to update it administratively so that the municipality can respond to maintenance and undertake their obligations under the Drainage Act. What the new reports also allow is for drainage improvements so that you can deepen or widen or realign the drain so that landowners can have the most efficient use of the drain. And I think that's where all these reports have come into play, where you're updating them under these sections of the Drainage Act to be able to fulfill your obligations under maintenance. You have to maintain these, and then also to allow for any improvements so that all the farmers and landowners have improved drainage benefits. So at this point, we're at the meeting to consider to whether the updated reports are used moving forward. And then the discussion after the fact, I think, is how council would like to proceed with the construction. And some of these options really are about how construction is undertaken and how the municipality can use the grants available to the landowners to their advantage to keep costs lower. So that's, I think, where all these options really outline those cost benefits of taking these reports under an update. Hopefully that's helpful.
So just to reiterate, the motion that's on the floor is to accept the engineer's report prepared by Robinson Consultants. It isn't to pick an option at this point. The options were put out there because those are coming forward in the future, but that the report has to be accepted by council in order to be applied to make those options applicable. Sorry, is that spoke in a circle there, but. So the options are there because in order for us to accept this engineer's report, we need to know what the next steps could be. That's why they're part of this. Is that correct?
Thank you. So at this point, there are 4 options. The 4 different procedures that we provided, and within those procedures are the options that will follow subsequently after making that decision.
But we're not picking an option here.
We're not
tonight.
picking an option. We're picking the procedure at the high level at this point on which way we're moving forward. And from there, we'll work our way through that.
So if you go to your package, I'm just going into. Sorry, I got too far down the. What page is it on, Dave? I'm just scrolling here. I'm just scrolling.
The engineer's report, it starts on page 4.
Right.
3, option or procedure 1, council proceeds to construct. That's where you receive the reports, and then procedure 2 involves council does not proceed. So you do not receive the engineer's report. That's option 7, 8. And then procedure 3 is council refers the engineer's report back to the engineer. And then procedure 4 is reappoints engineer under section 76 of the Drainage Act.
That's where it is. Okay, so 317, page 317 is procedure 2. And procedure 3 is on 318. So, but accepting the engineer's report, what the motion is on the floor, just so that everybody is clear, I'm going to read this motion again so that we are clear of what the motion is. The council accept the engineer's report prepared by Robinson Consultants, Inc., entitled Engineer's Report for the Modification and Improvement of the Creek Road Municipal Drain dated May 2024, and that council give first and second reading to a proposed bylaw. Therefore, adopting the engineer's report as a provisional bylaw in accordance with sections 42 and 45 of the Drainage Act, RSO 1990 CD 17, and that notice of first and second reading of the proposed bylaw be given to the affected landowners and arrange for the Court of Revision in accordance with the Drainage Act. Correct? There's no option in any of this, and there's no procedure that's being.
That is correct.
So But the reason that extra information was in the report is so that everybody we have the drainage consultants here, that you are aware of what is coming forward. So there will be further discussion about these drains and further discussion on which option we will be taking and which procedure we'll be taking. Are we all clear now? Sorry, I don't want anybody making a decision here that they're uncomfortable with, but this is far from over. There's lots of stuff to do yet, so
Then, if I might,
go ahead.
through you, your worship, it strikes me personally as we should accept the engineering report. I don't understand if we turned it down, we are in a kind of not even neutral, we're setting ourselves back significantly. There's money already spent, the report's in, somebody's paying for it. It would
As
strike-
right now, we're paying for it.
Right now, we're paying for it. And I appreciate, I did read some of the Drainage Act, and artificial intelligence gives great reports. My opinion would be we should accept the report then, and understanding that the options were just put forth so we had a better understanding of where we're going.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Fode.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. I agree with Councillor Gorell. We should accept this report. As the mayor had stated earlier, this was started in May of 18, before we were, all of us, except Councillor Lackey, were elected to council. And we're just following through. COVID had put this on about a 3 or 4 year hiatus, as the engineers and consultants could confirm. My phone lit up Friday and Saturday, as I knew it would. I read all the agenda knowing we had a heavy agenda on Thursday evening. And when I saw these two reports were coming down, I thought, I wonder who's going to call first. This is what the farmers are looking to hear, the same questions we're asking tonight. Because quite frankly, there isn't one person seated at this table here tonight who's got 5 cents involved in this, one way or another. Some of these people that do have land involved here have got tens of thousands invested, and there could be tens of thousands more. And as stated by the mayor, and I think by our director of operations, there's going to be more meetings that need to be held open, because that was the number one dart that was thrown at me Friday and Saturday. How come we weren't invited to this? My soft approach was, I don't think you needed to be at this point. But I said, I will clarify that. So we'll leave all the other comments aside for another meeting, but I agree. We need to pass this, because this was a ball that was pushed into motion beforehand, and it needs to be steadied and followed. And then which way it goes from there depends on, in my opinion, what the landowners want, not what I want. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions in regards to the motion that's on the, go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. And again, the same sort of thing. I think this is an ongoing thing. And the last time we brought this to us, we had a room full of people here who had many, many, many concerns. So I see us continuing that discussion, and one of our next items on our list will actually address some of that too. So again, it's timeframes, it's the costs, it's the overall of the whole thing, and they had other options that which they had thought up. So again, there's a lot more to be had here, and yes, get the report done. And it's a good report. It's got a lot of information in it. I did read it also, and I'm quite happy with what it's got, and a lot of great work there. And thank you for the engineers for that report, and move on to the next step. Thank you.
Okay. Any further comments or questions in regards? Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, perhaps the Director of Operations can go through the next steps, just so everybody understands what happens.
Can I
after
call a
today.
question first and then he can go through the next steps, or are you wanting him to do that before I call?
I
the
think he
question?
should probably go through them.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Following the meeting to consider, or, adopting this report at this meeting, three members of council, 3 members of taxpayers within the municipality will form the quarter revision. And the quarter revision, as Eldon had explained before, is where if there's any issues with the assessments that people have received, everyone's seen what their portion of this will be, then that will come to the quarter revision. it's not the technical review. The technical review is completed by the tribunal following that. So the next steps are and you'll see the meeting following the Poldervar Webster, that we're going to be creating or putting the members into the court of revision for that purpose. That has to happen within between 20 and 30 days following the adoption of these reports. So directly after this report, the clerk will send out a notice to all the affected property owners and let them know that this has been adopted, and that we will set the date for the court of revision at that time as well, so that they're aware of what the date of the court of revision is. And that's where they come basically on the financial aspects, the assessment aspects of the drainage reports that have been completed. If they have issues after that to do with the technical aspects, then the tribunal will follow that. I don't think I have the timelines of that in here, Eldon. Thank you.
Go ahead.
David, if I might clarify, if that's okay. The tribunal appeal period starts immediately after the provisional bylaw has been adopted. So landowners at any point following the 2 readings of bylaw are able to appeal to, they'll file their appeals with the clerk of the municipality to the provincial tribunal on technical matters. Following the court of revision, they may also appeal the decision of the court of revision. So if their appeal was heard and not satisfactory, they may appeal that decision to the tribunal as well. And that appeal period to the tribunal has a 40-day window in which they can appeal to. And then assuming that if there's no appeals or the appeals are satisfied, then council would proceed to adopt the 3 readings of bylaw.
And the CAO has a question as well.
So just for clarity for everyone, so at what point does this come back to council, given these timeframes for everything? What point does this come back to council to discuss procedure 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Eldon, you want to touch on that one?
Sure. The procedures that have been outlined in this staff report are really based on the construction and assessment of the cost. So that's assuming that these reports receive a 3rd reading under bylaw and all the appeals have been satisfied. These options would then outline how the council of the municipality wishes to proceed with the construction and to what degree that these drains are constructed, and then how the cost may be assessed out to those landowners. The general recommendation or the best management practices are to follow the Drainage Act and fully construct and assess as per the engineer's report. But given that these reports have received some maintenance somewhat recently, there may be opportunity to curb some of the construction costs to help save costs to landowners. So I guess the point at which these options in front of you today would be discussed with council would be following a 3rd reading of bylaw.
So I think what we're trying to get at, if I'm understanding all of these questions, is that if we accept the engineer's report today, we establish the court of revision, and any challenges in regards to assessment come forward with court of revision and the appeal process goes smoothly. We're coming back to council in 4 months to pick an option of what we're going to do moving forward as far as work. Is that correct? Or is that 6 months, or is it another year? I think that's what we're trying to get at as far as timing, so that people understand how long this can take. Go ahead.
Timing may be a bit subjective, just depending on how the appeal process works. So the meeting to consider this meeting tonight is what initiates the appeal periods, where landowners can appeal their assessments on a technical basis. Right now, effectively, the reports are in a limbo or a holding pattern. Given the provisional bylaw reading, then it allows the report to go into the appeal stages, where landowners can raise their concerns through the various bodies, court of revision for their assessments, tribunal for technical matters, and then if they have any legal concerns, there's the drainage referees. There's 3 appeal bodies. That's what this meeting is tonight. And then, you know, beyond that, if there is no appeals, third reading of bylaw could happen relatively quickly. If there is an appeal, that would delay the process in order to get 3 readings. So that would determine, you know, where council would have the opportunity to come back and discuss how they wish to proceed with construction and assessment.
Correct. I have a question from Councillor Kelman. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. What I'm missing is if we choose an option down the line that is not option 1, does that not affect the amount of the assessments? For example, if we decided to only do partial construction, would that not then alter the assessments? Because if we're not doing all of the work, then the landowners won't be assessed for all of the work. So how can they appeal their assessment to the Court of Revision if they don't know what that actual assessment is going to be?
Is it not a percentage of the full amount? It's not a dollar amount that would be like people wouldn't have an assessment because they have no costing. It's based on a percentage of what they own of the drain. So it's would be an appeal or sorry, I've Lauren. My apologies. I'll stop trying to weigh in here. Go ahead, Lauren.
Yeah, the assessment schedules, they do have a dollar amount in them, but they're intended to be
estimates.
proportional. So as long as you are, what they're appealing at the Court of Revision is their proportion of the assessment. So that amount always has the ability to change up or down. If you don't do construction, it'll be significantly down, but they still pay the same proportion of whatever costs do go out.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
So
And
again,
just for clarification to Eldon's points, the Court of Revision is kind of a standard process. So that has a set out timeline. And if everything follows through, it would be about 3 or 4 months before that whole process is done. The tribunal process is a little longer. So if there is an appeal to the tribunal, then it gets scheduled by the tribunal, but it won't be for probably 6 to 8 months to a year out that the tribunal would actually hear an appeal if they decide to do so.
okay. So hopefully that helps as far as timelines is concerned. But again, for the sake of those that are watching who may have joined us later, this is only to accept the engineer's report so that further work can be done and the estimates can be sent out to the affected landowners so that the Court of Revision can be established and people can come back and further discussion about that if they have concerns. Correct? I'm just trying to make it as simple as possible. Okay. I'll let Deputy Mayor Fody have the last word and then I'm calling the question.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. I indulged upon the staff to give me the full printed reports of both these municipal drains the other day, and they were so kind to do so. Makes for great reading if it interests you, which it does. The engineers and staff have broke it down in there. Councillor Kelman's question was a great one. It's in there. Every property is assessed this much for that many 1.3 acres, 79.24 acres. It's all in there. So mathematically, it could be brought back around. I do have one other question. If we went to an option 2, does that circumvent 10, 15 years down the road to go back and do an option 1?
Who wants to take a stab at that? Eldon or Lauren?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Those options, you know, the engineers' reports come in and they recommend a certain level of work to construct the drain. And when you incur costs for construction and engineering at the time of the report, it's typically billed out right away. So if there was limited construction done at this point, you know, only that construction cost and the engineering cost would be assessed to the landowners at this time. If there's a decision to limit the amount of construction immediately, then the drainage superintendent in the future may go back and maintain the drain and assess the cost at that time, but the engineering costs they would already be billed out at that point. So it would only be the limited amount of maintenance or construction costs in the future that would be billed out at that time. And those costs are only assessed to landowners upstream of where work is completed. So if there was work, halfway up the drain, let's say, only the landowners upstream of that component or that portion of the drain would be assessed at that time.
Go ahead, Director Holiday, sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to add to that. And when, once we have the engineer's reports as well, if the drainage superintendent went out there and identified an area that needed maintenance done to it, we would be applying the standards that have been created as a result of the engineer's report. So that's where, we're given the baseline with this report, and then we have to adhere to that baseline as we move forward as well.
Because the drainage superintendent is not an engineer. He is there to maintain the drain based on the engineer's report, hopefully, potentially, that we get through this evening, because otherwise it's just a guessing game of what to do.
Yes, but he is certified as
I know
a
he is.
drainage superintendent, but yes, the engineers with the stamps have done all the work too.
So it has been calculated and gone through all of the stuff. Okay.
Correct.
So it's not subjective based on somebody's opinion. It's based on an engineer's design.
Exactly.
Thank you. Okay.
And I believe that engineering report is a requirement of
It
the
is.
Drainage Act.
It is. That is why this has been in a holding pattern for so long, is that because we have not accepted the engineering report, we cannot move forward with whatever of these options. And I just want to make it very clear to those who are affected by this drain, we cannot move forward and do anything with the drain until we accept the report. So the hope is that we can come to a consensus with everybody that's on the Court of Revision and with council to move forward in a way that is acceptable to as many people as possible, and that will have the most benefit at the least cost. There, said that. I'm calling the question. All those in favor of the motion that's at hand? All those opposed? And the motion is carried. Okay, so we do have Katie Mahone on the line. I know.
No,
Sorry.
need to do the other drain. That
I
was
know,
just one.
I know. I'm just kidding. I know it's just one. I just wanted to say Katie is on the line. We haven't forgotten about her, but I'm going to move forward with the next drain so that we don't lose our stride here, folks. And then we're going to go back. I'll come back to the Court of Revision after Katie's done, if that's okay with clerk. Okay, I'm getting a nod. So I'll move forward with the motion. Deputy Mayor Fody, seconded by Councillor Maybe, that council accept the engineer's report prepared by Robinson Consultants, Inc., entitled The Engineer's Report for the Modification and Improvement of the Boulevard Webster Municipal Drain dated May 2024, and that the council give first and second reading to the proposed bylaw, thereby adopting the engineer's report as a provisional bylaw in accordance with sections 42 and 45 of the Drainage Act, RSO 1990 CD 17, and that notice of the first and second reading of the proposed bylaw be given to the affected landowners and arranged for the Court of Revision in accordance with the Drainage Act. Does anybody have any questions on this motion? It's the exact same one as the last. We're accepting the engineer's report. We are not choosing on how we're moving forward, just accepting the engineer's report. All those in favor of the motion at hand, all those opposed, and we're carried. Okay, thank you very much, Eldon and Lauren, for your expertise this evening, and thank you, Director Holiday. You have something to say?
Sorry, thank you, Your Worship. Just wondering if you want them to be a part of the Court of Revision establishment report as well too, because it is linked to these two reports.
Sure. You know what? I'll put the motion on the floor for the Court of Revision, and then we're done with drains for this evening, and then we'll move on to the fun financial stuff. Moved by Councillor Maybe, seconded by Deputy Mayor Fody, that council receive Operations and Infrastructure Report 2025-034 regarding the role of and establishing a Court of Revision, and that council appoints the following 3 members to council to sit on the Court of Revision. So I have had 3 members of council who have offered to be on this. Are there, I will say their names, and if there's any other members of council who would like to be on this, I'm happy to have a little bit of a back and forth on that. So Deputy Mayor Fody has offered, Councillor Maybe has offered, and Councillor Kelman has offered. Is there any other member of council who would like to offer to be on there? Should we have an alternate in case someone is unable to attend? That's just popped into my head. So Jeff is going on record in the event that Court of Revision, we may have to do another appointment, but nonetheless, it's on there because I don't want to hold up Court of Revision if we're missing members. Okay. So is there any objection to those 3 council members putting their names forward? Speak now, forever hold your peace. So we have Deputy Mayor Fody, we have Councillor Maybe, and Councillor Kelman. So all those in favor of the Court of Revision, including Deputy Mayor Fody, Councillor Maybe, Councillor Kelman, all in favor? All opposed? It is carried. Okay, we are done with drainage for this evening. Thank you, Eldon and Lauren, for helping us through this. This is something that doesn't happen every single week, so it is always a learning curve for us, and we appreciate your expertise. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we have Katie on the line? Okay, we have Katie on the line and you're with us via phone and instead of online, correct?
That's correct. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, Katie, and I'm sorry if you're having technical difficulties. So you were to speak in regards to the 2024 financial statements. We have those on file that we can flip for you, I'm assuming. Yes, we do.
That'd
And
be great. And
we're just loading them onto the screen. So I'll indicate once they're on the screen and then tell you. Oh, you can't do that?
This computer doesn't have any.
Oh, that's a problem. Oh, Lord. We're having technical difficulty. Oh, Phil can. So we're getting Phil to share his screen and then I'll let you know once we have the screen up. What an evening.
thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, if maybe I can say a few opening
please go
comments
ahead.
while that gets set up. And
Yeah.
maybe just for Phil's benefit, because I can't see, we'll work through the audit findings report. So the report that has the blue on the first page. And I'll just start by saying my sincerest apologies. It's certainly, I'll say it's certainly a first to do this via phone. But for whatever reason, there seems to be a power outage, and first the Wi-Fi went, and then the phone cellular went, and it just slowly trickled away. And I finally got the hydro alert that it won't be restored till later tonight. So I'm happy we could make this work via phone. And I will say that the good news and we'll go through it in more detail, but the good news is that the audit findings report is really a bit of a no findings report. So, if there's ever one to do over the phone, I do think this is a good one to do, and it will be
Excellent.
a fairly quick presentation.
So we've skipped forward to audit highlights screen. If you want to start there, we've already introduced yourself, so we can get going from audit highlights.
Great, thank you. So our audit highlights page is really our executive summary. It gives a bit of a snapshot of kind of what's new and different through the audit. However, we will go through all of these items in a bit more detail. So to page number 5, which is the status of the audit. So at the time we had sent the report, which was a few weeks back, we were substantially complete the audit. So that remains true today. So all we have left to do is have our conversation. And then at that point, we'll have our kind of housekeeping updates, get our letters signed off, and then we'll be in a position to finalize the 2024 fiscal year audit and be able to close the lid and move into 2025. Page number 6 speaks to updates to our prior year audit plan. So last year, we completed the audit, and so each and every year we move forward, we do look to see if there are any mandatory adoptions of either accounting or auditing standards. Over the COVID years, they were put on hold, and so kind of the post-COVID years, we have seen a bunch of audits.
Okay, next screen. Did we lose her? Oh, no.
Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you now. We're good.
All right. Okay, perfect. Sorry, I'm on page number 6, just touching on the changes from last audit. And all there is in the form of changes is the adoption of the mandatory accounting standards for the year. So no new auditing standards that impacted your township, And as you can see on the screen, we had the revenue standard, private-public partnerships, P3s, and purchase intangibles. Those were the mandatory standards to be adopted. The good news is that purchase intangibles and the P3 relationships, the township doesn't have any, so those are pretty easy adoptions. There was no impact. And then in terms of revenue, at a very high level, the new revenue standard just changes the timing of when certain revenues are to be recognized. So a bit more of a performance completion before you bring it in. So you leave it as deferred revenue until you're hitting those performance completion milestones and then bringing it into your income statement. So, a little bit technical, but I would say very normal course for us accountants, and certainly the finance team, tackled that adoption early on, and we'll see later in the report, but it's all been adopted. Here. So just a reminder, it is a group audit, and the reason for that is that the library is consolidated into the financial statement numbers. So we do look at the township and the library together when we set our materiality. We have increased it. Last year it was $350,000. This year we've landed at $375,000. How we set it is based on some guidelines that the Canadian auditing standards provide. So anywhere from a 0.5 to a 3% range is typically where we like it. It's 2.3% was the benchmark last year. And so with that increase in materiality, we're keeping steady at that 2.3% benchmark as well for this year at the $375,000. Just a quick note, that is the overall materiality threshold. However, we do audit to a much smaller percentage, so it's a straight calculation, 5% of that total materiality. That's the number that as we go through the audit, we determine if anything needs to be corrected or uncorrected. That 5 is the materiality used within the audit. From a risk assessment perspective, if we move to page number 9, you can see on the screen here, the top fraud, and then that significant bringing a lot of attention. So I'll touch on that first, which is just to say that the management override of controls is a presumed fraud risk, meaning that it's a requirement for each and every audit in Canada to have that fraud risk identified and planned in the audit. It is also mandatory risk. What that means is it's nothing unique to your township. We pull it into each and every audit as we are required to do so. And page number 10, which we'll get to in a second, gives a bit more detail on the procedures we performed in relation to that significant risk rating. Before we get there though, the other items with the blue dots, those are all really standard course run of the mill. They're the same areas of financial statement audit focus as we would have had in the past, and risk rating being base is the lowest level of risk rating. Again, very consistent with past audits, very consistent with industry and peer audits as well. So then page number 10 is that presumed fraud risk management override of controls, gives a little bit more detail. I won't read it. For council here tonight is that last sentence, the sentence around non-identifying any issues or finding. So again, exactly what we would expect to see from those mandatory procedures. After that, page 11 and 12 is the financial statement highlights. So these are screenshots out of your financial statements. We'll get to the audit misstatements in a couple of pages, but as a bit of a spoiler alert, there were no corrected misstatements throughout the audit. There was one very minor uncorrected item, but again, we'll speak to in a minute or two. But really what that says is that the financial information that you're getting throughout the year, your internal reporting, very reliable, very relevant, very timely information. So there's really not a whole lot different in these next 2 pages than what you would have been receiving in year. So again, I won't go through all of the line items individually, just touch on maybe a few highlights there. So under financial assets, one of the items we do like to highlight is the taxes receivable, just looking at it as a percentage of overall levy. The ministry does put out some financial indicators. So anything less than 20% is in the kind of mid-range mark. So, again, very, very average in comparison to your peer group. And then I'll also say anecdotally, doing the audits as we do across the geographic region, being under 10% post-COVID is a great benchmark when we do look across that peer group. So slight increase in percentage from 17 to 18 this past year, but that really comes down to rounding. So nothing of any alarm to note there. And then within your financial liabilities, quite a significant increase in your accounts payable and accrued liabilities. That really is just timing of some fairly large, substantial invoices coming in around year end, and also the payment to the county last year having been made. Items to note, so the deferred revenue obligatory reserves, that 1.4 million, last year the 1.6, that's where we see the funds set aside, the unspent funds from OSIF, Parkland, and the CCBF, formerly the gas tax. So that's where we see those unutilized funds put aside. So they only come into your statement of operations once they've been spent. Overall net financial assets is at 1.3 million. That is another financial indicator we look to just to ensure it is a positive number, meaning that you have sufficient current assets to cover those financial liabilities. And then we get down to your non-financial assets. The biggest number on the financial statements is your tangible capital assets. That change year over year is always due to additions offset by amortization. And as you can see, 8.7 million of additions, so some pretty substantial capital additions in fiscal 2024. And then after that, page 12 speaks to the statement of operations. Again, I won't go through everything, just touch on some highlights here. Maybe starting with, so taxation, it's gone up from last year, but quite consistent with budget. There was some payment in lieu increases beyond budget there, which makes up the majority of that change. User charges in fiscal 2023, there were a few tax sales that had some proceeds in excess of what was received in 2024. That's the majority of that change year over year there. I'm really the only other one in revenue to highlight just because it is labeled as other. So usually just like to highlight, what is included in that other, since it is $1 million. And that's mainly, there's a few items, but mainly attributed to the casino revenue coming in each year there. And then from an expenses perspective, the statement of operations is shown on a departmental level, but note 16 of the statements does break it down by segment. So by your salaries, your materials, contracted services, for more details there. And then overall, a operating surplus for the year of the 495,000. We then add to it the revenue related to capital to have an overall surplus of the year of 1.4 million. From there, we get into page 13 and 14, which speaks to accounting policies and practices and other financial reporting matters. So as I mentioned on page 13 there, we have the 3 standards that were required to be adopted. So the statements have been updated to reflect those new standards, but as I mentioned, no significantly material impact to note. Then on page 14, we've just highlighted that for fiscal 2025, there will be a bit of a reprieve and no new standards to adopt. But then in 2026, we will have another standard around financial statement presentation. So the calculation of items will not change, but the look and feel of the financial statements will change a bit. The biggest change is that the balance sheet or the statement of financial position will look more similar to a private enterprise or an NPO, where you're themselves or the calculation of the numbers, just that presentation to come in 2026. After that, page 15, specific topics. So this is really the rest of those required communications that we are as auditors required to disclose to those charged with governance, being yourselves, being council. Takeaway for the group, certainly that right-hand column, no matters to report on any of these items. And then the next page, page 16, speaks to the audit and the statements. So as I mentioned, no items that were corrected by management. I would say very efficient, very smooth audit process. Your finance team is certainly top notch. We would not be able to get through the audit as smooth as we did without the day-to-day being run quite efficiently with a lot of attention to detail there. We did have one uncorrected. What it relates to is in late February, early March, WSIB did make an announcement that they would be refunding or crediting premiums related to fiscal 2023 and 2024 years. That announcement, though, coming in early March of 2025, that credit was not recorded in the books since it was known later. So technical accounting, we do have to put it back, but since it did come so late and it's not a check that gets reimbursed, it's really just a credit on account. So we were quite comfortable with management leaving that as an uncorrected. So we'll see that come through on the 2025 fiscal year, and then it'll be a clean slate moving into 2026 from there. The next page, page 17, speaks to control deficiencies. So as part of the audit, we are required to get a thorough understanding of the internal control environment. Happy to note we did not flag any significant deficiencies to bring to your attention. We did not identify other deficiencies, of a less significant nature either. So again, very, very tight ship run by the finance group there. And then lastly, independence, before we get into the appendices here. So independence is another required form of communication that we have with yourselves each year. So to the extent we complete any non-audit or prohibited services, we had any factual or perceived conflicts, we would disclose them here tonight, but happy to note we do not do any non-audit services and no conflicts to note. So all clear on the independence front as well. From there, we're into the appendices, which I won't go through in detail, but happy to take any questions on any of them on the report.
Did we lose her? Oh, yep, we lost her. She literally finished the presentation.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you now. So we got through that presentation remarkably well, considering you did not have a screen in front of you. So you're back online. Are there any questions for our auditor in regards to the financial statements? Luckily, Katie, there are no hands up, so you are off the hook this evening, and we're sorry that this posed such a stressful evening for you. I guess we can't plan power outages and that sort of thing. So we appreciate your work and your team and your efforts, and it's always good to know that our financial team is as strong as we, I think, already know they are, and we rely on them heavily. And we thank them for their work, and thank you for just validating the fact that we know that we have a crackerjack team.
And everyone bearing with me, and you for the rest of your meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thanks, Katie.
Bye.
Okay. So we'll release her. It is 7:35. I didn't put the motion on the floor. It's, it's been a night, yes. So I haven't put the motion on the floor to approve the audited financial statements. I think we'll take a comfort break for 10 minutes and then come back with it is number 13.1 draft 2024 audited consolidated financial statements is where we will get back in 10 minutes. Thank you. We're all back in here. Sorry. Oh, it's fine. It's gonna be gone in 2 minutes anyways. I just need to sit over this way. So we're going to reconvene here at 7:44. And we're going to put the next motion on the table, which is moved by Councillor Maybe, seconded by Deputy Mayor Fody. The council approve the 2024 audited consolidated financial statements, that the council approve the 2024 audited trust financial statements, and that council approve the transfer of the 2024 surplus in the amount of $204,810 into the working fund reserve for $102,405 and contingency reserve for $102,405. So motion is on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? For those of you who weren't online to listen to our auditor give statements, we were in a very good financial position last year. Some things happened that were unexpected, both good and bad. But a lot of work got done, and there was nothing really to report that the auditor was concerned with. So any other comments or questions? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Next item on the agenda is the move by Councillor Maybe, seconded by Deputy Mayor Fody, that council approve the capital carry forward budget, $4,210,200 tax funded and $2,886,400 water and wastewater funded as detailed in the 2024 capital year-end schedule as attached to Corporate Services Report 2025-016. So if anybody has questions, I'll refer them to Phil at this point. I think it's, again, the report was fairly clear. Go ahead.
If I might just take a couple of minutes through you, Your Worship,
Please.
looking at the good old tax capital financial plan, the 10-year plan. That would be Exhibit C. Okay. I guess I've asked this before. I just, again, clarification. When I look at the debt servicing there, I guess that would be, I don't know what page that is, debt estimates. I see Lansdowne urbanization, I see Fire Hall 2, and I see the Lansdowne mining projects. And the numbers, I understand, we've discussed that before. What I just want clarification on, when I look at the interest that comes from that, if all of that was to transpire, we're up to $1,300,000 in interest payments by, I don't know, 2030 or something like that. I know all this has not been approved, the urbanization project as an example. And so this 10-year plan, does it include the urbanization plan of $7 million plus? And is that the reason I am looking at the road network reserve? I'll use the word being drawn down and decimated through the year 2027 through 2034. We're in a deficit position of $5 million. Is that primarily because of the urbanization project? And I know it's only an estimate, but those are pretty frightening, a lot of red ink there. And if we took out the urbanization project, that would have, I'm assuming that would have a pretty big effect on this 10-year plan.
Through you, Mayor, the Lansdowne specific urbanization project and the 10-year plan is not included to be funded through the road network reserves.
No.
That's not. When we built the 10-year plan, we based that specific project and we highlighted it kind of at the top. Was a combination of potential debt and potential senior levels of government grant.
Yeah.
So that's how it's being built in. that relates to other significant road work based on our asset management plan. One thing I would say, and we are looking at it through the next iteration of the asset management plan, is every year with budget, we budget transfers from operating to the various capital reserves. And, you know, we've been indexing that up every year, but we're looking at sort of that, what is actually the proper mix. So if you notice on there, when you look at the total capital reserve funds, we're in a positive. Bridges is over 5 million, roads is negative 5 million. So it's kind of, do we need to look at the mix of how we're contributing to the reserves? And some may need to go up for those specific reserves, some may come down, but it's kind of the overall pool. So that is all being looked at as part of the next asset management plan iteration.
Down in number 5 of that same chart, then, Phil, if I might, when I see there's a business here that says annual increases, and as I shift across year by year by year, why would I see an annual increase of 2031 of 0 when I appreciate what you're saying, that you can juggle where the numbers go? Why would that come to 0 that particular year? Again, I don't have a great enough understanding of these numbers.
So through you, Mayor. So the reason that one is at 0 in 2031, looking at it overall, is that if you look at number 6 right below, part of that is to provide the overall impact. So based on the debt estimates in theory, there would be debt coming online that year. So in taking into the fact that we're going to be servicing that debt and looking at the overall impact, we're trying to keep it to no more than 4%. And we're trying to get it to a steady point where it's no more, it's around 1%. But in that year, that was the thought, hold off the increase in the reserves because debt was coming on that year and we didn't want to see too much of a spike to the general tax levy. So that's the thinking behind that in that year. But again, those debt estimates, again, are estimates, those projects aren't approved. The only thing I would say, that 1.3 that we get up to, that is principal and interest payments, just so we're clear.
Okay. And just one final comment, if I might. When I'm looking at scooting across on this, for the past few years, and I brought this up at a meeting one other time, we had talked about either improvements or replacement of another fire hall. That has fallen off of this. If I'm reading this correctly, I see no mention of it under debt or buildings. There doesn't appear to be anything there that would indicate that there is another fire hall being contemplated or any major expenditure to the one. And I'm just curious because that seemed to be, at one point, it seemed to be quite an interesting point of view from the fire master plan or something. So I'm looking at those numbers, it's not there. Is that correct?
The through you, Mayor, yes, the correction of a new fire station isn't built into here. I would say that within the facilities tenure, there is capital work based on the age and condition of the current facility. I don't have that number handy with me right now, but yes, the construction of a new, that's fire station four. Sorry, I always get the numbers mixed up. The construction of a new fire station 4 is not included in this 10-year snapshot. Only the maintenance.
Maintenance and upkeep. Okay, so at this time we are, therefore, that brings, I could bring it up now. There's a fire report coming up later in tonight. So at this time, we are not anticipating. And did the fire master plan have that in there, or was that just something we were concerned about with our asset management plan?
Chief?
Through your worship, the only one identified in the last master plan was Station 2.
Okay.
But I know that there was some stuff, something for Station 4 identified through the asset management plan. But I think we've looked at pushing that out and other options as well for what we could do with that building moving forward.
Because we did have the exact number, I just remembered, was 5.2 million that we had recurring in a number of budgets. Okay, that's just wanted to touch on that. Thank you very much. It's very confusing. Thanks, Phil.
Okay, any further comments or questions in regards to this report? And the motion that's on the floor? I see no hands up, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Thank you. Moving along to the next motion, which is 13.6. Thank you very much. We're back on the track. So that council give Deputy Mayor Fody moves it and Councillor Maybe seconds. That council give 3 readings and approve bylaw number 2025-030, being a bylaw to establish milestone recognition certificates policy as attached to the bylaw. Discussion on the motion? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Fody.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. This was something I was going to bring forward in a notice of motion, but seems this headline come up for the agenda, I thought, well, it'll fit perfect here. Should we consider doing a ribbon cutting for new businesses or businesses that get revamped or change hands? It seems to me we're missing the boat in celebrating some of these businesses in our township when they open, and some of these folks are spending a minimum of thousands or tens of thousands, and then we got a motel up the way here soon to open, is spending millions. And I think we're amiss, because I notice other jurisdictions that I follow around here, they do just that. They celebrate these grand openings, whether it's a business that's been revamped, changed hands, whether it's a brand new business, and it doesn't matter the size. These folks are putting, basically their money where their mouth is in our township, and I just think it would be a kind gesture to welcome them, or welcome their tax dollars in eventually. But I think our building department and a lot of this would play a way when they give them an occupancy permit. We would know, or at least we could hand out an invite that if you wish to have us participate in this, let us know. Just food for thought, if anybody
ahead.
else wants to weigh in.
Through you, Your Worship. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Fody. That's a wonderful idea. We can certainly make it known to businesses that if you're celebrating something and you need a member of council, if you'd like to do a photo op, ribbon cutting, send us a request, much like Minister Clark's office and MPP Barrett's office receive these types of things, and you see them in the newspaper all the time attending stuff. So I think that's a great idea. We can certainly promote that for sure.
Any further comments or questions? Follow up? Go ahead.
Excuse me. Through Your Worship, can we tie that into this very?
I think it would need to be
Fits.
rewrite the whole bylaw if we were going to do that.
Okay.
So I think we should maybe do it on
Do this and move on?
and then we'll address it in whatever way possible in future meeting. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Next item is, we have a conflict on this one, 2025 community grant spring intake additional funding. So this motion, we're just waiting for the members to leave the room. We have members Maybe and Antoine Hartley leaving at this time. Moved by Councillor Correll, seconded by Deputy Mayor Fody, that council approve the 2025 community grant spring intake additional distribution in the amount of $12,256.39 as attached to Corporate Services Report 2025-014. Discussion on the motion. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. I know we had discussions about this previously. Is this going to be part of our policy where if there is unused community grants that we carry them over every year to be used?
That is a very good question.
Because we
Mr.
allot
Ramos.
that every year, we might as well have it spent every year or carry it forward and.
Fair. Mr. Renier?
Through you, Mayor. Just on that, we can certainly carry forward in terms of the budget. I would say we do keep it in a separate reserve fund. So any unused money is not lost budget from year to year. It would be in the reserve, unlike other.
Is it in a special projects reserve or what?
There's a
reserve?
specific community grant reserve fund.
Oh, pardon me.
That is established, that
So-
it flows in and out of each year. So even in years it's unspent, the money is allocated and put to that reserve fund, spent or not. So it is kept separate and doesn't go into the general surplus that way. But then we can certainly incorporate that, yeah.
Okay, we're good with that? Any further comment or question? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. And we don't have any conflicts on 13.8. No, it's the fire service agreement. Yeah. So I'm going to put the motion on the floor and moved by Deputy Mayor Fody and seconded by Councillor Antoine Hartley. The council authorized staff to terminate the fire protection agreement between the Corporation of the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands and the Corporation of the Township of Front of Young, originally signed in 2001, that forms part of bylaw 42-001. Discussion on this. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to the fire chief. The actual service time that it takes to get to a incident that may happen without Front of Young participating, is there? And it did indicate a little bit of a difference, but have you actually clocked it?
Through your worship, good question. I've gone through all the last 2 years of reports, and there's maybe a 1.5, 2-minute delay between the two departments to responding. Where they're a little closer, we assemble quicker, so that drive time, we can make that up a little bit. We're responding to all the same calls they're responding to. The original agreement had a kind of a definition between what they were responding to, but we're actually being called to all the same calls they are. Which has, in the last 1.5 years, I've asked that to happen just for our own due diligence to make sure that our residents are being well taken care of. Kind of sounds like a kind of a double whammy on it, but it certainly helps us at the end of the day to make sure that our fire prevention officers know what's happening. Our burn complaints and all of those pieces kind of fall together, so we don't lose track of what's happening in that other part of the township.
Okay. Any further comments? Go ahead, Councillor Groh.
Thank you, and through you, your worship. And it's interesting and it's commendable, as pointed out here, that the response time is often no more than a couple of minutes. That's a credit to the fire department. However, my question gets back to fire underwriter service, the fire master plan, and what we have repeatedly been told. Why do we need 4 fire halls? We need 4 fire halls because the concentric circles must be within XYZ, 8 kilometers or whatever it is, right? The southeast corner of Escott has always fallen out away from those circles. Therefore, the technical coverage, as I've always understood it from the fire department, comes from Front of Young. That's my house. There's $1 million properties down there, and they're all under now a fire service that isn't up to snuff. So getting back to fire underwriter service, why was that has been beat into our heads? The reason that is important is because it gives us a fire rating on our insurance if the insurance companies choose to use it year after year after year. I've heard that argument. And here, this doesn't address that. And it's great to say we're within 2 minutes, but the fire underwriting service does not say 2 minutes. It says 5 miles or 8 kilometers on appropriate roads. So how do we just ignore that now? Or how would we address that? One area that we did address, and to a credit to the fire department, is their fire shuttle service. That's something that was also a big part of FUS. And to their credit, year after year after year, they make it work. But just those concentric circles were presented like they must have them. Well, all of a sudden it appears you don't, or someone's out of the FUS technical guidelines. I wonder if we could address that. Thanks.
I'm going to recognize the CAO and then add the chief if he has anything to add to it.
Thank you, Worship, and through you. I'm a neighbor of yours, So I had the exact same question. So the fire chief is working on a plan to, with FUS, to see if we could put a tanker, one of our tankers, in the Escott garage. We have personnel down that way that could respond to that garage, and that may extend our circle out there. So we have some time. There's a 6-month termination if council decides to approve us to go. We have a 6 months window to work with FUS to ensure that we have the adequate protection that our residents deserve.
One, and I hope this is related, has Front of Young, are they mitigating these circumstances, Fire Chief? Are they attempting to get a fire truck or
They have got
whatever? They do.
They
Okay.
have got a line on a used one. It's online now, correct?
Through your worship, yes, they took possession as of last week. So we covered them as a first response for a little over a month.
Mhm.
But they did take possession of a tandem 2,500 gallon tanker. One of the things I've been looking at as well, and I hadn't told this CAO this yet because I actually just found it this afternoon, is there's provisions in the FUS for more dry hydrants. And if you can have the dry hydrant in that specific area, that will help. And that increases your 8-kilometer radius. So if there's opportunity to do that, and we've been slowly working those east on the parkway, unfortunately not quite as easy to do in the northern part of the township, but along the parkway, we may have the opportunity to do that, which would increase our 8-kilometer mark from that as being a water source. So it acts as a basically as a fire station, for lack of a better term. That gives us another access point for water, which changes things completely for us.
Without putting you on the spot, if I might, one final question. So Town Line Road is separating between Front of Young and our township, and it runs straight down to the St. Lawrence River. And historically, there was a town dock there that used to service the milk farms over on Grenadier Island. And it's not an insignificant chunk of water. Would that be a candidate for a dry fire hydrant? And that's a municipal road, by the way.
Through your worship, it's certainly something we'll address and investigate what the best portion of our resources for that are. Anything on the parkway proves to be a little bit of a challenge, but just through the Parkway Commission and the other parts to that. But for a fire service, they might be able to help us out a little bit more. But we'll definitely look at different areas that would help us with that for sure, that help us to get that water shuttle better.
Good, thank you.
So I'll make one comment, if you'll allow me, before we vote on this. So, I know that this is something that was a difficult decision to make as far as bringing it to council, because this isn't a relationship that we've had with Front of Young for many years. Having said that, Front of Young is supposed to be building a new fire station in the near future. One of the things that, and this is not a shot at our chief, I know that he works well with others and looks forward for finding solutions. One of the main concerns that we all have as mayors that I talk to at county council is that it isn't always collaborative, because, for example, we'll use Front of Young. If they build that station right where it is in the middle of the village, is that the best place for it? Or are they looking at neighboring townships and other ways that we could work together and partner together? Because one of the major challenges, as we're all quite aware, is these stations are not cheap to build. And for a tax base of 3,200 people, it's a big, big price tag. Not to mention them having to need new vehicles and all the other trimmings and accoutrements that come with a fire station. So I guess this is a political statement on my end. And again, I will reiterate, it is not a slight against our fire chief, but we need to do better as political people sitting at this table, mayors, meaning me and my colleagues at county, to get together to look at ways that we can be more effective with the taxpayer dollar and share some of the expenses and therefore cover what needs to be covered. So those conversations need to happen now so that people don't start planning to build a new station in front of Yonge, in Athens, in Rideau Lakes before hopefully we're part of that conversation. So that's how political I'm going to get tonight. Anyway, go ahead, Chief.
Through your worship, just because we're taking we actually have multiple automatic aid agreements with other municipalities. With the City of Kingston, we have an automatic aid agreement that covers 401 between Gananoque and Joyceville Road and back at no cost to either municipality. This is the only agreement that we have that actually costs. So we can still use Front of Yonge for mutual aid. We can still look at setting up an automatic aid agreement if that's required. I know that Front of Yonge recently, and I think in the last year, did their tanker shuttle accreditation as well. So those circles still come into effect. So there's no problem still being able to call those folks for mutual aid as well. So just wanted to make sure that was known.
Thank you. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Next item on the agenda is 3.9 RFT OPS 2025-018, moved by Councillor Maybe, seconded by Deputy Mayor Fody. The council approved the award of tender OPS-2025-018 for the Public Works Yard Site Improvements to G. Tackleberry and Sons Construction Company Limited in the amount of $629,013.36, inclusive of the net HST. Discussion on the motion. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wondering if we get a Cole's notes on this particular little project.
Thank you through you, Your Worship. The parking lots in this building, I don't think that there was anybody here that oversaw the construction of it when it went in. Typically, a yard like ours would have 2 lifts of asphalt, and only 1 was put in. So we're seeing fatigue in the asphalt. It's pretty tired. So we're at this point right now where if we address it immediately, then there are some mitigation methods that we can put in place, and that's what we're looking to do. Instead of removing all of the asphalt and re-preparing the granular and reshaping and grading, we're going to utilize the existing asphalt as much as possible and introduce fibers into the surface asphalt, which will mitigate reflective cracking coming through. And we should see a lot of longevity out of that and get the proper structure that we should have with our asphalt. There are some areas towards the back where we're unable to save it. It's near the sand dome where we see our heaviest loading of anywhere in the municipality. And only having 1 lift of asphalt just wasn't suitable for that purpose. So there are some sections where we do have to remove as well. And it's basically from behind the gate back to the sand dome. We're going to fully remove that and make sure that we have the proper structure in place to get the longevity that we should be seeing out of our parking lot. We have some drainage challenges with the parking lot, as I've heard from many of the staff and some councillors as well, where the water will pool as high as the sidewalk before it finally gets away. So we've looked at that with the engineers. We're going to do proper drainage of the parking lot and ensure that we don't have pools of water that we're walking through to come into the office anymore.
Follow up.
And just as a follow-up, you just touched on the sidewalks. Will they be improved in any way also?
Through your worship, the sidewalk at the front door, we have a low point of depression where the parking lot meets the entranceway into the building. So we'll be removing, I think, 4 panels out of that and relining that up to match with the new parking lot. There's some minor grading that will take place in the yard as well to help get the water away so that it can shed. The sidewalk at the back we're going to use as a control point. We don't want to raise the parking lot so high that we start pushing the water towards the building. So we're going to use the sidewalk as the control point and divert everything away from both buildings into a trough and then out into the ditches that surround the parking lot.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Next item is moved by Councillor Antoine Hartley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Fody, that council approve the award of tender OPS 2025-011 for the Rockport Village Phase 1 Old River Road and Birches Lane to G. Tackleberry Sons Construction Company Limited in the amount of $794,250.54, inclusive of the net HST. Questions, comments? Go ahead, Councillor Rowe.
Waiting all night for this one. As people may recall, sitting in this committee, it was 2003 that we authorized a study to be done for both Lansdowne and Rockport. They were called the urbanization and drainage projects. Focusing on Rockport, it went to a company called Concept Dash in Toronto to the tune of $76,000. In fast forward to May or June 31st of last year, there was a public meeting, not a statutory meeting of any kind. It was just an information meeting. And it was a bit of a disaster in that the good folks of Rockport had one single message. They didn't want any sidewalks. They didn't, at that meeting, my recollection, and there were 4 council members there at that meeting. The drainage, no one wanted to listen to the engineer. It was simply, we don't want sidewalks. And then the discussion fell onto speed limiting and so on. And it became a bit of a free-for-all. It was left that the report was not a fait accompli and further work would be done. To this date, I never have received or read any updates. So tonight I have an opportunity to ask, what are we doing on the road profiles that were given to us by Concept Dash? And what are we doing for $800,000 on the north side of the Parkway in the settlement area of Rockport?
Go ahead.
Thank you, through your worship. You say disaster, I say passionate members of the public. I think that it was ultimately a positive meeting. We received the feedback of what the people of the day are looking for, and our design, as we carried it forward, took that into consideration. So we are building a standard road cross section in terms of the asphalt and the curb with no sidewalk on either Old River Road or Birches Lane.
So to be clear, there is, excuse me, there is drainage provided by a small curb, a cement curb. Would that be correct? And then drain grates, is that what I'm at the appropriate places along those roads?
Thank you, through your worship. There are curb and gutter, like you see in a regular city, village, settlement, whatever you want to call it. But instead of having catch basins and storm sewers, where the existing pipes run underneath the road, the natural drainage paths, we have outlets from the curb that will outlet into those ditch lines, and the water will get away on its natural water course.
And that is a blacktop paved road then, is it going to be?
That is correct. That is 2 lifts of asphalt. Speed humps are included as well at the request of the public. Signage and yes, all those types of things that we discussed in the meeting.
So really the only thing that has changed from that design is there are no sidewalks.
And we added speed humps.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So when anybody from Rockport calls you and says, when are they doing that? Why are they doing exactly? This is
The
how
phone
it's
will
going to
ring.
be.
When they call about the cargo trucks driving over the speed humps.
But I think the point at that meeting, to elaborate on what you said, Councillor Grell, there was a lot of other issues that were ancillary to the actual settlement boundary, but no less important to be taken into account. And so I believe that it has been considered through this process. Obviously, this is only addressing the paving within the settlement boundary. However, the approaches and everything else are going to be taken care of if they're gravel going to pavement, that sort of thing, or surface treated to pave, whatever.
That is correct. We will be tying them in accordingly. In addition, while we're not putting in sidewalks, we are including the type of curb that can support sidewalks in the future should the public request that. And we're talking about infrastructure that will be in place for the next 75 years. So we wanted to have enough forethought to at least put that in place that we didn't look back and go, I wish we had have done this in 40 years.
Because the residents of the area in 20 years to 30 years time may have a different point of view. So we're not cutting our nose off to spite our face and throwing our money away and having to dig it back up.
Just putting a bow on it. This is not replacing like with like. This is a vast improvement in that road network in the village, north of the Parkway.
That is correct. We are going from a 4 meters wide surface right now currently, which does not meet the standard for road design, to a 6 meter surface, which does.
Okay. And I'm assuming that each entranceway to each household will be taken care of with pavement or whatever like to like in that regard.
That is correct. Each
Okay.
entrance will have its own depression
Yeah.
meeting the road, and the landscaping tying in the properties as well to the back of the curb will be addressed as well.
One final one, Dave. Any idea when this would start? And it was brought to my attention that the big bicycle fundraiser that starts in Toronto and goes to Montreal, they stop at the Rockport Barn on August 4 or 5 or 6, and they were hoping that there would be no construction at that time because they're expecting 300 people in there. I just wondered, any idea in a timeline? August is right around the corner. I don't know if that would be too early.
We will take that into account and make sure that there aren't any hurdles that they have to overcome.
Yeah,
in order
that
to
would be
get-
great. And I'd really appreciate if you could just stay in touch with them on that because they sent me an email a month or more ago and I thought I'd bring it up and hopefully you guys can follow up on that for us.
Happy to do that.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I have Councillor Baby and then Councillor Antoine Hartley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Mr. Holliday. During the road construction, all the culverts will be changed out, not only under the road, but at the residences.
Thank you, through your worship. All of the culverts underneath the road will be replaced. The culverts that are in the entrances will be removed, as they're going to be, the drainage will be handled on the surface of the road instead of in a ditch line.
Excellent. Thank you.
Councillor Antoine Hartley.
Through you, Mayor. Just noticed that the lowest bid you've asked came in, and then you've asked for $80,000 contingency for unforeseen overages. Any idea why you're thinking that?
Rock. I don't know if anybody looks on the way here.
It's just that when you have a bid, that's usually on the bidders to have.
Well,
seen that.
Dave has a theory about that. So
With every project, we as we get underway, we find that there's something. It could be rock under the surface. It could be alterations that need to be made, you know, whether we're adjusting the surface width or anything like that. And just having that security blanket there, that if something comes up beyond the scope of the project, that we can move forward without having to come back and ask for more money at that time. So standard with a contract is 10% of the total cost. And that's roughly what we're looking for this, just for that purpose.
thank you.
Thank you.
But the other part of that is that it's not part of the contract, so they don't assume the money unless they're watching this meeting. The money is there. But just a note to say thank you to Dave and his staff, making sure that estimating it and having it come in significantly under budget is a very positive thing. So I have who's pointing at who here? I saw Councillor maybe out of my eye. Are you?
If I may, and just wrapping up, I wonder, because the community, their last opportunity to have heard anything about this would have been that meeting. I wonder if it wouldn't be too much to ask that a synopsis or a summary be said, this is what's going to happen, because we're going to approve this tonight, and the RFP's already gone out, so people would say, well, what did council approve? What's going to happen? And they will be very interested.
Maybe a flyer?
Could
that
we
could be
do
pinned
something
in?
in that regard? That'd be great if we could.
We could do council catch up or something like that. We're happy to share something.
And just maybe do a special on that, just so that everybody that will be in the affected area is made aware well in advance. So if they can give you a potential timeline, hopefully avoid the bike rally, all of that stuff.
Yes, part of the submissions is the schedule from the contractor. So we'll make sure that we communicate with them that that the bike rally will be happening.
And there is a business on that road that they are part of the consideration to make sure that their access is not impeded for their special events.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor.
Yes, I did have something, and that was any project should have a contingency fund. It doesn't matter what it is, what we're doing, if you don't have it, because an engineer report can also forget something or have missed something or didn't explore something well enough. So without it, you get caught and you end up going over budget. So having that contingency should and always be there. And to the flyer point of view, I know this came up with Darien Side Road. I think an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper put in everybody's mailbox down that road with that information would be very helpful.
I think that's what I asked for, so.
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Maybe. As part of the project, we always have the contractor put a flyer in the mailboxes to let them know about the project as well, the timelines and who to contact if there are any concerns or questions.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to call the question on this, folks. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. I look forward to driving down a very smooth road in the northern part of the Rockport Village. Moving on to the next one, 13.1 RFP-OPS 2025-015 Architectural and Engineering Services for Adaptive Reuse of the Sealy's Bay Hall. Moved by Councillor Antoine Hartley, seconded by Councillor Maybe, that council authorize staff to engage the Idea Inc. for the architectural and engineering services for the adaptive reuse of the Sealy's Bay Hall in the amount of $151,403.62, inclusive of net HST. Motion's on the floor, up for discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And to that point, you gave the 151,000, but later on in the financial implications, it says 29,668. So I'm trying to figure out how that worked into that.
Go ahead, Mr. Holliday.
Thank you, through your worship. So the phase that was approved in the 2025 capital budget was for the visioning of the hall. But I'm not going to, it didn't make sense to put out an RFP for just the visioning when it would lead to further work. So, and then have to go back and do another RFP, engage another firm and slow down the project. So we put it all together as one big package. We found a couple examples where other municipalities had done this similar thing. And this, what we put out in the RFP is all of the stages to get us through to post-construction where they do the as-builts, et cetera. But the consultant is aware that what they've been engaged to do at this stage is just do the visioning for the hall. And if at that point council says we don't want to move forward with this, then that is the end of the contract. They are aware of that. All the consultants were aware of that. And at each stage of the design is approval from the municipality to move forward to the next step. Thank you.
So I have Councillor Antoine Hartley and then Deputy Mayor Fody.
I am happy to see this come up, and IDEA is familiar with the community because I believe they were the ones that did the fire hall as well.
They were.
Weren't they?
Yep, they
Yeah.
were.
So that's going to be good that they're already familiar with the area and have had a little bit of experience with it. Just to let you know, the community has been preparing for this and they're looking very forward to having input. There's been a active little group that's been working very hard on some ideas, and I'm hoping that they'll be, contacted as well.
A call will be made for all people in the community to come and contribute to that. And everybody's contribution will be used equally. We know that there's lots of different ideas that can be applied to this building and its use. We know it's an important piece of the community, but we want to make sure that everybody, but it'll be posted publicly. If they're looking for white bow invitations and all that kind of stuff, that's probably not going to happen, but everybody will be made aware as best possible.
Have you been to Sealy's Bay? We're not looking for that.
Anyways, is there anything you want to add to that, Dave?
I just wanted to include that the initial phase as well as the design phase, we included PICs both in the visioning as well as the preliminary design phase, so that the public would have input not only at the first phase, and then it comes back to council with the alternatives and the options, but also as we move through for the use of the space as well, they'd have an opportunity to provide feedback on that.
Excellent. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Fody, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you, Director of Operations. What kind of time frame are you looking at for Idea Inc. on this?
Our hope through your worship, our hope is to complete the visioning stage of this in advance of preparing the budget so that we can budget for the additional phases and capital, the construction aspect of this for 2026.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Thank you. Next item is 13.2 RFT OPS 2025-019 Lansdowne Village and Municipal Facility Waste Collection. Moved by Councillor Kelman, seconded by Councillor Gorell, that council approve the award of tender OPS 2025-019 for the Lansdowne Village and Municipal Facility Waste Collection to Mterra Environmental in the amount of $45,080.82 inclusive of the net HST. Discussion on this motion. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Director Holliday. Is the cost that I see here, and I know you did explain it a little bit in the brief, but this company is half of almost everybody else, and I know that you did do a check into them. Is there any more explanation to how they have come up with that pricing?
Yes, through your worship. So Mterra Environmental is the group that was successful with our RPRA for the Blue Box recycling program in our area. So these guys, they're a big group that have multi-bin trucks that are able to pick up multiple streams at the same time. They're being paid by the Ontario government to be here already, and I think that they're just making a little bit extra to pick up the garbage at the same time. And to our benefit, their price was very competitive, so that the price included is roughly what we paid for the village previously last year, but it also includes all of our buildings within that rate as well that we included on the list.
Any further comments? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Fody.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. Does this company separate waste and recycling?
Yes, through your worship, that is a requirement of the tender that we put out. But they do have multi-stream trucks that they're able to pick up. I think it's like a 60-40 split where they can pick up garbage in one portion of the truck, and it's completely separated and segregated from the other ones. You'll see the big trucks here that are picking that stuff up separately.
All right, thank you.
Any further comments? I see none, so I'm calling the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Next item is 13.13 RFT OPS 2025-021. Provide steel column repair. Motion comes forward from Councillor Gorell, seconded by Councillor Kelman, that council approve the award of tender OPS 2025-021 for the repair of steel columns in the Public Works Garage in the amount of $50,244.86 inclusive of the net HST. Discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Lackey.
Through you, Your Worship, just wondering what steps are being taken to prevent this from occurring again?
Go ahead.
Thank you, through your worship. In addition to doing the wrap around the columns to provide that strength, we'll be going into the concrete. Some of the conduit for electrical and water, et cetera, have seen some deterioration as a result of the salt. So we'll be digging down underneath the concrete floor and repairing those sections of conduit. When we come back up to the surface and the concrete is done, and I believe before the wrap goes on, we're actually going to be coating all of the columns that are in the middle of the building, exposed to the building or exposed to our operations, with a zinc coating to seal them from any future contamination with salt.
Okay. Any further comments? Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. I noticed that this column repair is 50,000, but remaining projects is 718. What else is remaining for the?
Through your worship, included in this is the site works for this building, and then also the issues that we're having with the administration building at the front with water penetration on the stone facade. So that's the last piece of this that has to be completed. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
There's been a long list
Yeah.
and you're ticking them off. So, I mean, tick off the list. So you're not ticking him off. Okay. I just wanted to be sure. Okay. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Next item is conflicts for one of our counselors. Counselor Antoine Hartley is leaving the room. Spring intake 2025, moved by Counselor Kelman, seconded by Counselor Grell, that council approve the 2025 Community Improvement Plan spring intake applications for the property municipally known as 129 Helen Street, Sealy's Bay, in the amount of $8,002.45 as attached to Exhibit A to Planning and Development 2025-037, and that council directs staff to prepare a funding agreement for both approved 2025 spring intake CIP applications to be executed by the mayor and the clerk. Discussion on the motion. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Excuse me. Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Just curiosity, because we only had the one application approved at least. Is this only open to, jog my memory, I'm trying to remember when I read it, is this open to private properties as well, or just commercial type buildings?
Go ahead.
Through you, this is open to private property owners as well as commercial uses.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. You can come back in, Ms. Antoine Hartley. Okay. Next item. I'll get it on the floor. 13.5, moved by Councilor Grell, seconded by Councilor Kelman, that with respect to zoning bylaw amendment application D14-2025-002, 91 Shipments Lane, council approved the amending bylaw 2025-033 as amended and Schedule A to change the portion of land zone as shoreline residential RS zone to shoreline residential special exception RS-61 zone in township zoning bylaw number 07-079. A lot of numbers. Go ahead, Madam Planner.
Thank you. Through you, just to provide some clarification to council, there was an amended bylaw that was distributed as part of your package tonight. What was amended is subsection, 2E of the bylaw as recommended. As proposed originally included in the package that was posted, there was wording that spoke to the accessory building shall not contain a kitchen. A wet bar for the exclusive preparation of beverages is permitted. Appliances and plumbing for the wet bar shall be limited to a coffee maker, a compact fridge, a compact sink, faucet, and compact dishwasher. There was some concerns with that wording expressed by the applicant, so it has been revised in the amended bylaw that's been distributed to council. Just to indicate that the accessory building shall not contain a kitchen and a wet bar for the exclusive preparation of beverages is permitted. The reason for that being they were concerned about the wording around a compact fridge or a compact dishwasher. So
it's not as specific, maybe. Right. Any further comments in regards to this? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. On to staff reports. So I'm going to put the motion on the floor and then we'll go through if there's any questions in regards to staff reports. Moved by Councillor Kelman, seconded by Councillor Grell, that the information items be received and filed. So there's no action coming forward from these reports. The motion is now on the floor. So you have 3 reports under staff reports. 2024 Building Revenue Expense and Reserve Fund Report, Mandatory Minimum Certification Standards Policy, Escott and Springfield House Project Update. So any specific questions in regards to any of the items? Well, I'll just start then. You did have? I'll go to you, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. So my question was on 4.2, the certificate certification for the fire department, because it basically gave you a whole list of all the certifications that they required. So some of my questions are, is there a rope rescue crew, building collapse, confined space, trench rescue, and swift water? I assume you do, since you do ice water already. So I was just wondering if that certification is in-house and there are people who are doing that.
Through your worship, so some of these, some of the certifications are outside of our ENR bylaw, such as Swift Water currently. And basically, it's all the certifications that you could have in Ontario.
Right.
Some of the ones such as Swift Water or High Angle or Confined Space will go to the awareness level.
Right.
Basically, we'll show up and
Yeah.
yes, this is a high angle rescue. We'll call in an outside fire team. As most fire departments are doing, the cost to run those courses and to be able to outfit rope rescue teams is quite expensive. Basically, any of those higher rescue type courses, they're not mandatory until 2028. So like our ice water rescue course we will not have to be certified to be tech level till 28, which is what we're working on currently. But all of the other ones for the 2026, we're very, very close to being completed those.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Dr. Mayor Photos.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to the chief. With regards to training, that P38 propane training night, I was there along with a handful of other people in the municipality. Most of us were in the church parking lot well across the road. What was the take back on either side, both from P38 and the fire training?
Through your worship, it was very an interesting training because as most fire services, as happens in most fire calls, the night that we decide to do the training, within 15 minutes, we've got Gananoque set up for a water supply in the town of Gananoque, and they have a call. So it totally changed how we had to go at it. Fire service changes all the time. We already had a secondary water source set up, but it made us divert all our apparatus to the north, which really kind of changed the time. Within 20 minutes after that, we're back and we had another water supply in Gananoque, so we were able to split the tankers between both. What we learned is what we learn in every one of the scenarios. The first 20 minutes of that or 15 minutes of any emergency scene are kind of chaotic, to say the least. But once we had all our ducks in a row and all our tanker shuttle working well, we were able to supply the right amount of water to it. It was a good learning experience for our firefighters as well as their staff. They were very excited to do it, and they've already got plans in place for next year's event. So I'm pretty excited about that as well. So,
well, from an observation point of view, it was interesting to know that the trucks and the power they have could hit that big tank fully, and beyond if need be. And that was like a peace of mind to both the owners of the property and neighboring properties to know that, because before that property was given a green light to build, that was a big issue right in this very room with Chief Lawson back in the day. You know, people were afraid of explosion and everything, but knowing that the fire departments can hit that right from the shoulder of the road on Highway 32, that was peace of mind.
Through your worship, yes, that it was certainly an interesting scenario. In a mass explosion, that's going to change, everything's going to change greatly. But in most cases, the number one problem they have is an ungrounded truck at a fill site or improperly grounded. So what most of the calls that they have, and they had one in Western Ontario not very long ago, was exactly as we had this set up. It was a truck fire at the plant. So obviously water on it as fast as we can get it and hit it as hard as we can with water to get the fire knocked down. And that's what we practice. So we've got a few ideas for our next time as well, but we're going to continue to work with them and just set up differently every time, just in case that ever happened in real life.
Thank you.
Okay, Counselor, maybe go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. The only other one was the Escott Hall. And Deputy Mayor Fody and I traveled with Director of Holiday to Escott for a nice tour. And it was nice to see the has happened now and how far it's come along, and that the end of the project is coming up and that it's looking really good. And I think we've saved some heritage buildings for our community to use for many, many years with this upgrade of what we have done. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? I just want to bring one thing to everybody's attention. If you didn't do the math, when you read the Building Revenue Expense and Reserve Fund report, 147 new homes have been built in this township in the last 4 years. A lot of houses, really, for our township. When you look at it, those are new single-family dwellings. So it's starting to taper off. Obviously, 2022 was the high at 43 in 1 year, 40 in 2023, and 26 in 2024. But when you look at what that does, it not only adds, obviously, dwellings, but it adds people to the community. Some of them may be seasonal, some of them may be year round, who knows? But at the end of the day, it's adding and growing our community, not to mention, adding to our tax base and the number of people that we serve. So just thought I'd point that out. Any other comments in regards to the information reports? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Only one information item. And so the next information item from the public from correspondence, moved by Councillor Grell, seconded by Councillor Cumlin. I had that. So that the information items be received and filed. So it's the same motion. Except the information reports. I didn't mention the word report. My apologies. I read quickly. So with that, any further comments in regards to the correspondence received? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Next is 16.A, notices of motion. Notices of motion. Calling for notices of motion. Councillor Lackey, go ahead.
I'll try and be brief. Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. The Thousand Isles Parkway, unfortunately, has unofficially become a 100-kilometer-an-hour road. I say that because I've tested the theory many, many, many times.
You're not supposed to admit guilt.
Well, there's so much law enforcement on the parkway now for various other reasons, but it seems to be you can drive 100 kilometers quite comfortably past every one of them. To that point, we've got a couple of spots based on our last 15.1 correspondence of the Cliff Road. There's been a community meeting recently at Ivy Lee with regards to the horrible intersection at Fitzsimmons Road, Ivy Lee Road, Parkway, in a blind corner, where they have indicated they would like our support for speed reduction in that area. I believe we're doing something similar for Rockport on that stretch of the Parkway. I know there's a lot of hoops to jump, but I'd like to see if there's the will of people around this table to provide that support to have that speed reduction at a dangerous corner.
I think, to be very honest, that we have addressed this at MTO delegation with Caroline Mulrooney, talking about speed reductions. Maybe I wasn't with you, maybe I was with someone else. I know we've talked about speed reductions in front of Rockport, but we also addressed the crazy corner coming out of Ivy Lee because of the incline down. So it might have been previous to you joining us, Director Holiday. Having said that, that is MTO managed, and now MTO is 100% responsible. So the only way to get them to address it, even though St. Lawrence Parks Commission is technically responsible for the parkway, that is an easy ask, and we can make that known to St. Lawrence Parks Commission, and a notice of motion coming forward would obviously have input from all of council and would be a formalized way to make sure that it gets done. And I would say that we are too late for delegations at AMO at the end of August. They went into the end of May, I think. But we can definitely put it on the agenda for Roma because there's a list started.
Okay, that is my intent. Just to briefly go down the same road, so to speak. I learned that from Councillor Mabey. An emergency exit at the end of the road. it gets pretty narrow, emergency vehicles, a lot can happen down there. In talking to some of the residents, it was their idea to have some form of separate entrance or another entrance exit, either or out of the village.
You're talking about the end
Ivy
of Ivy
Lee.
Lee Road?
Yes, well, at the end, well, that's the only place we
It's a
own.
dead end.
So it is our road allowance through there as well. Other than that, that's it. I think they'd like to see again some incorporated speed bumps if we are going to do some road work down there some year.
In Ivy League?
Yeah.
Okay. So work with the clerk in regards to bringing forward that notice of motion at our next meeting. Go
Well-
ahead, Councillor Glenn.
I just wanted to ask for clarification. Jeff, you were asking for a staff report then concerning another entrance into Ivy Lee. Is that what you were looking to?
Yes, thank you for clarification. That's exactly what the residents
That
were
can be
looking
part
at,
of the
whether
notice
it
of
was
motion.
an emergency exit only or a one-way or some form of accessibility.
Thanks.
Okay. Any further notices of motion? Go ahead, Councillor Antoine Hartley.
Through you, Chair. So at a meeting in the future, I'm going to bring forth a motion pertaining to how we can streamline our procedures to support our volunteers in our communities that provide events for our communities.
Thank you. Any other notices of motion? No other notices of motion, so we'll move on to announcements and statements from councillors. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. A couple things here. The Gananoque River Fest, June 27th to 29th. Canada Day in Gananoque, July 1st, waterfront fireworks, and I know that Sealy's Bay is also having one. And the other note is the thanks to some members that are here in the council chambers, Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Cindy, for participating in the Town Criers Championships that was held in Gananoque. Also, Jen Burrell of the Visitor Center, who was instrumental in a lot of ways behind the scenes. Vicky Leakey was also helpful. McKenna Modler and Luke and Dustin. And the 14 criers who actually showed up from around the province of Ontario. It was a very good event. I was very happy to have been the host of it, and I do feel it went very well. Minor glitches here or there. The weather didn't play well, but the Royal Theatre came through in spades and helped us out with us performing on the stage, which ended up being a very nice venue for us all to participate in. And I think the judges who were present here could also say that it was a pretty decent place to be. And again, thank you very much for your help and participation in this event. Thanks. Oh, yes. Yes, the weekend before that, Amazing Race Canada did come to Gananoque, and I did have the opportunity of participating in that, as in giving the teams their directions to find certain elements around Gananoque to make the Thousand Island dressing. So we had 6 teams, and they did come through, and it was a wonderful event. We spent 8 hours filming on Thursday of the B reel, as they call it, and then on Friday, over 2 hours they came through. So this fall it will be scheduled on CTV somewhere. And so as soon as I know the dates, and I think Mr. Lackey, you may have had a hand in something along the way too.
I did not, but yeah, there was filming continued in the village of Ivy Lee, actually, to do another get another clue, another pit stop, and a bit of a layover for a rest for them. So that was all done at City Cruises in Ivy League.
Yes. Again, thank you.
Excellent. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Fody.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I just got reminded of a resident that called me this morning. I don't know why I overlooked it. You're talking about announcement from councillors. This resident wanted to know, at one time, there used to be porta potties at boat ramp, namely Charleston Lake, he mentioned. He was wondering if we could initiate porta potties at places like such that don't have them now. And he said
that's on Cataract Way Conservation Authority.
He realizes that, but he says we, being the township, are getting the fallout. He says, it goes without saying men can step in between a pair of pickup trucks and do what they got to do. But he says, I don't know how many times I've seen somebody with a roll of toilet paper and head for the woods. Well, the woods isn't public property. It's private somewhere. But maybe we could initiate and just rattle a chain. There was a porta potty back there at one time. And, you know, he had mentioned Lyndhurst and I corrected him on there. I said, there is a solid building there with 2 different washrooms in it. But I don't know if there's other places where maybe it's something we overlook, because we as tourists ourselves, when we go to other jurisdictions, even if it's only 25, 30 miles away, we all need them. And maybe we should do a little accounting of our own jurisdiction and see where it needs some help. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Antoine Hartley.
I was fortunate enough to attend all 3 of the recreation town halls in the areas, and I would just like to commend the staff and Councillor Lackey and Kelman for their work on to get the input from the communities. Lots of great ideas came out. It was good. So thank you.
Okay, Councillor Kelman, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. You might be going to mention this, but the Leeds and Thousand Islands Historical Society is celebrating their 30th anniversary this Saturday with a boat cruise going out of Rockport. I believe there are still a few tickets left. I'm going, and I think you're going, Madam Mayor. So I think there are still a few tickets left. So if you are interested in going and helping them celebrate, just go to their website and all of the information will be there.
Thank you. I've got 5 minutes before we need to expand this, and I'm going to do mayor's update very quickly. So since the last time that we met, I attended FCM, the Conference Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Thanked them profusely for the grant that we received in regards to the landfill mining investigation. I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong word, but anyways, the work that we did to look into doing mining at the municipal landfills and where that might lead. And that was all due to a grant from FCM. I met a lot of really cool people, and it is very different, I must say, from AMO or Roma. However, not the same as far as delegations and that sort of thing. So next year is in Edmonton. I don't think I have any interest in going to Edmonton at this point. However, I just wanted the council to know that I did feel that it was valuable. I got to listen to the new Prime Minister speak to the need for infrastructure dollars. And my only question is, I'm just wondering where the money's coming from, but I'm very glad that that is one of their focuses. And so I'll be very interested to see as they roll out these programs. Also like to recognize that Rockport Schoolhouse Jam is this Saturday as well, prior to the boat cruise out of Rockport, and which is the Historical Society boat cruise. I believe it's at 6 o'clock. I also wanted to notify in regards to Canada Day that's coming up in Sealy's Bay on July the 1st. I believe there's still a parade and all that other 1 o'clock parade. I don't know if anybody's working. I might need a ride, but anyways, at the end of the day, it's always a great day, and we do appreciate volunteers and what they do to make sure that these events continue to happen. And lastly, I'd like to recognize the young folks that we had in here prior to council this evening. Mara McConnell from GSS, Courtney Hookstra from Rito, and Jory Leakey, who goes to TIS. All 3 of them were our bursary winners and all wonderful representatives of this community that we live in, active in their community, active in extracurriculars, as well as excellent students and people we'd like to see be part of this community for many years to come, but realize that sending them away for higher education is part of the process. So all the best to them and their future endeavors, and we thank them. So there's a motion. I'm going to need a mover and a seconder. We have one last thing to do, which is the closed session. I need a mover and a seconder that council extends curfew by an additional half hour in accordance with section 6.01 and 6.02 the procedural bylaw. Who would like to move? Maybe and Kelman. Thank you. Kelman second. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Okay, so we're extended till 9:30, but hopefully we won't need all that time. So the next motion that's on the floor, moved by Councillor Correll, seconded by Councillor Kelman, that council resolve into committee of the whole closed meeting to discuss the following items: personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal and local board employees, Municipal Act 2001, Section 239, 2B, Building Department. So all those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. So we'll just ask those who have no need to be in the enclosed or in-camera meeting to vacate the premises, no offense. And they're like, why didn't you do this sooner?
Thank you, Aaron, for
Yes.
attending. He's our drainage.
Yes,
We
thank
just-
you, Aaron.
We just have to adjourn after, so we won't come back to open session.
Don't we have
We have
revise
to,
the
I think we
report?
still have to, we still have,
Oh.
we still
yeah,
have bylaws and
you're right.
everything. Yeah. It's all right. It's a long day.
The day.